Commander Velkin pressed his three-fingered hand against the communication console, his pale blue skin shimmering with stress patterns. The Zalathi research vessel, Whisper of Stars, drifted helplessly in the void, its engines dead, life support failing. Around him, his crew of 12 worked frantically at their stations, their elongated forms moving with desperate efficiency. "Status report," Velkin's melodic voice carried across the bridge, though strain made it crack at the edges. "Main reactor is completely offline," reported scientist Thymel, her 6 eyes blinking in rapid succession. "The cascade failure has spread through all primary systems. We have maybe 30 hours of emergency power remaining." Velkin's head tendrils drooped. 30 hours, in the middle of uncharted space, far from any civilized trade routes. Their mission to study the unusual gravitational anomalies in this sector had seemed routine until the reactor malfunctioned. Now it might cost them their lives. "Begin broadcasting the emergency distress signal," he ordered. "All frequencies maximum power. Drain the emergency reserves if necessary." Communications Officer Jalix manipulated the controls with practiced precision. The Zalathi were a peaceful species, members of the Galactic Concordat for over 3 centuries. Their distress protocols were designed to reach any Concordat vessel within a dozen light years. Help would come. It had to come. "Signal broadcasting," Jalix confirmed. "Standard Concordat emergency frequencies encoding our position and situation." He paused, his skin flickering with uncertainty. "Commander, at this power output, we're burning through our reserves quickly." "We have no choice," Velkin replied. "Without rescue, we die anyway." The distress signal pulsed outward from the dying ship, a desperate cry in the darkness. It carried the standard Concordat identification codes, the universal plea for assistance that any civilized species would recognize and respond to. The signal spread like ripples in a cosmic pond, racing across the void at the speed of light. What the Zalathi didn't know was that their reactor failure had done more than cripple their ship. The cascade effect had created a subspace distortion, a tiny tear in the fabric of space-time itself. Their distress signal, instead of propagating normally through space, was being bent and twisted through dimensions the Zalathi had never imagined. Light years away, in a sector of space that most concordat species actively avoided, the distorted signal found an unintended recipient. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Thunderchild, watching the tactical displays with sharp brown eyes. Around her, the crew of the human battlecruiser went about their duties with practiced efficiency. The ship was on standard patrol along the outer rim of human-controlled space, a region other species had labeled the Deathworld zones in their star charts. "Captain, we're picking up something unusual," Lieutenant Commander Davis called from the communications station. The young officer frowned at his screens. It's definitely a distress signal, but the encoding is all wrong, like it's been put through a blender." Chen moved to look over his shoulder. Humans had only made contact with the greater galactic community 40 years ago, and the meeting hadn't gone well. Most species found humans terrifying, products of a world they couldn't imagine surviving on, with its extreme weather, tectonic activity, and aggressive biosphere. The fact that humans had developed space travel while still technically omnivorous predators had caused several diplomatic incidents. "Can you clean it up?" Chen asked. "Working on it," Davis replied, his fingers flying over the console. "The signal structure looks like standard concordat protocols, but there's massive distortion, almost like it's been pushed through subspace somehow." Chen's expression hardened. The concordat had made it clear that humans were not welcome in their space. The feeling was largely mutual. But a distress signal was a distress signal. "Got it," Davis announced. "Zalathi research vessel, catastrophic reactor failure, 12 souls on board. They're way out there, Sector 447B. "That's the anomaly sector," Commander Torres, Chen's first officer, observed. "What's a Zalathi research ship doing out there alone?" Good question, Chen mused. She turned to the navigation officer. Lieutenant Park, how long to reach that position? At maximum burn? 18 hours, Captain. But that's pushing our engines hard. Chen made her decision. Set course. Maximum sustainable speed. Captain, Torres said quietly, moving closer. The Concordat has made it clear they don't want our help. If we show up, then they can file a complaint, Chen replied firmly. I'm not leaving 12 people to die in the void. Politics be damned. Besides, look at the signal degradation. I doubt anyone else even received this. Torres nodded, a small smile crossing his face. Yes, ma'am. I'll alert the medical bay to prepare for potential casualties. And have Lieutenant Kowalski prep a boarding team just in case, Chen added. Full environmental suits. We don't know what conditions we'll find. As the Thunder Child changed course and accelerated, Chen couldn't help but reflect on the irony. Humans, the Deathworlders that the Concordat feared, racing to rescue citizens of that same Concordat. She wondered how the Zalathi would react when they realized who had answered their call. Back on the Whisper of Stars. The situation continued to deteriorate. The emergency lights cast eerie shadows across the corridors as crew members huddled together for warmth. The temperature had dropped 20 degrees and continued to fall. Velkin made his rounds, checking on each of his people. In the medical bay, he found Dr. Ralix treating Ensign Kaivan for exposure symptoms. How is he? Velkin asked. He'll survive if we get the heat back on soon, Ralix replied, her usually steady voice wavering. But, Commander, at this rate of temperature loss... I know, Velkin said softly. Keep everyone together. Share body heat. The distress signal is broadcasting. Help will come. But as the hours dragged by with no response, doubt crept in. The Concordat's nearest outpost was 3 days away at standard cruise speed. Even if someone had heard them immediately, rescue might not arrive in time. In the engineering section, Chief Engineer Mollix worked tirelessly with her team, trying every possible solution to restart the reactor, but the cascade failure had fused critical components into useless lumps of metal and polymer. It's no use, Mollix finally admitted, her skin patterns showing defeat. Without replacement parts, we can't fix this. Velkin placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. You've done everything possible. No one could have prevented this. But privately, he wondered if that was true. Had they been too confident? Too eager to explore the unknown regions of space? The Zalathi were scientists and explorers, not warriors or survivalists like some species. They had built their technology for efficiency and discovery, not redundancy and battle hardiness. On the bridge, Jelix suddenly straightened. Commander? I'm detecting a subspace wake. Something's coming. Hope flared in Velkin's chest. Concordat signature? Jelix worked his console, then his skin went pale, almost translucent. No, sir. Unknown configuration. But, Commander, whatever it is, it's moving fast. Faster than any Concordat vessel I've ever seen. How long until arrival? 6 hours at current velocity. Jelix paused, his voice dropping. Sir, the power signature, it's massive. This isn't a civilian vessel. Velkin felt his tendrils tighten. Pirates? Some unknown hostile species. They had no weapons, no way to defend themselves, but what choice did they have? Continue broadcasting, he ordered. Add our situation update. Make it clear we're a scientific vessel, no threat to anyone. But as he watched the unknown contact racing toward them on the display, Velkin couldn't shake the feeling that their salvation might be more terrifying than death in the cold void. Aboard the Thunder Child, the crew prepared for rescue operations with military precision. In the ship's armory, Lieutenant Kowalski briefed her boarding team. Listen up, she said, her voice carrying the authority of someone who'd seen combat on a dozen worlds. We're dealing with Zalathi civilians. They're fragile compared to us. Standard gravity for them is about 60% of Earth normal. That means gentle movements, people. You sneeze too hard, you might break one of their bones." The team nodded understanding. Each was a veteran, trained in Xeno rescue operations. "They're also going to be terrified when they see us," Kowalski continued. "Most concordate species have never met humans in person, and their media makes us out to be monsters. Keep your helmets on, move slowly, speak softly. Henderson, that means you." "Yes, ma'am," the burly Marine replied with a grin. "Environmental suits stay sealed at all times," Kowalski added. "We don't know if they've got any diseases we're not inoculated against, and more importantly, we don't want to expose them to anything. The last thing we need is to save them from freezing just to give them the flu." In the medical bay, Dr. Asano prepared her team with similar care. "Zalathi normal body temperature is 8 degrees lower than ours," she explained. "What feels cold to us is comfortable for them. But they're reporting significant temperature drop, so expect hypothermia symptoms. Their blood is copper-based, so it'll look blue-green. Don't let that throw you." Throughout the ship, the crew of 300 prepared for an operation that none of their training manuals had ever covered, rescuing citizens of a government that wanted nothing to do with them. Captain Chen stood in her ready room, reviewing everything they knew about Zalathi physiology and psychology. They were a gentle species by all accounts, evolved from herbivorous swimmers on a world of shallow seas and archipelagos. Their first contact with predator species had gone badly, reinforcing their fear of anything with forward-facing eyes and sharp teeth. Her door chimed. "Enter." Commander Torres stepped in, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Thought you could use this." "Thanks." Chen accepted the cup gratefully. "What's our status?" "On course, ETA 4 hours. The boarding team is prepped, medical is ready. And engineering has cleared Bay 3 for their ship if we need to bring it aboard." "Good." Chen sipped her coffee. "Any response to our identification broadcast?" "Nothing. Their comms might be too damaged to send anything but automated signals." Chen nodded. They'd been broadcasting their identity and intentions for the past 2 hours, hoping to prevent panic when they arrived. "Have the translation matrices updated?" "Aye. We've got full Zalathi language support loaded. Though, from what I understand, they mostly use Concordate Standard for official communications, which we're still barely fluent in," Chen observed wryly. Humans had been trying to learn the common galactic language, but it was designed for species with very different vocal capabilities. "Captain," Torres said after a moment, "what do you think will happen when the Concordate learns we've entered their space?" Chen set down her cup. "Honestly, I don't know. Best case, they thank us for saving their people and we all pretend it never happened. Worst case, they use it as an excuse to escalate tensions. And the most likely case, they'll be furious that we contaminated their people with our presence, demand we never do it again, and the Zalathi we save will have nightmares about us for the rest of their lives." Chen's smile was bitter. "But they'll be alive to have those nightmares." Torres finished his coffee in silence, then stood. "I'll be on the bridge." After he left, Chen remained in her chair, staring at the star chart on her wall. Somewhere out there, 12 souls were slowly freezing to death, waiting for rescue from their own kind. Instead, they were going to get humans, the Deathworlders, the Predators, the ones who thrived where others couldn't survive. She hoped they could see past their fear to accept the help being offered, because ready or not, humanity was coming to save them. The whisper of stars drifted in silence, its hull crackling with the sounds of metal contracting in the cold. In the makeshift shelter they'd created in the central corridor, the crew huddled together under emergency blankets, sharing what little warmth they had left. Ensign Kaivan, the youngest of their crew at barely 40 cycles, voiced what they were all thinking. "What if no one heard us?" "Someone heard," Velkin assured him, though he fought to keep his own doubts from showing. The signal is strong. Help is coming. But the contact, Thymel said quietly. The unknown ship. What if it's... Then we face it together, Velkin interrupted. We are Zalathi. We have faced the unknown before. But this was different, and they all knew it. In their laboratories and research vessels, they controlled the variables. Out here, dying in the void, they were at the mercy of whoever answered their call. Jalix, who had stayed at his post despite the cold, suddenly called out, "Commander, the unknown vessel is transmitting. Audio and video feed." Velkin struggled to his feet, his joints stiff from the cold. "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life, and the bridge fell silent. The figure on the screen was unlike anything in their databases, yet somehow familiar in a primal, terrifying way. Bipedal, with forward-facing eyes and a small mouth filled with what were clearly omnivore teeth. The being's skin was a warm brown, with short, dark fur, no hair, on top of its head. When it spoke, the universal translator struggled for a moment before rendering the words in concordant standard. Vessel, Whisper of Stars. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Thunder Child. We received your distress signal and are on approach to render assistance. Please respond if you are able. The words were calm, professional, even kind. But all Velkin could focus on were those predator eyes looking directly at him through the screen. His rational mind knew this was a rescue. His instincts screamed danger. Behind him, someone whimpered. The human, for that's what it had to be, one of the Deathworlders, continued. We're reading critical system failures across your vessel. We have medical teams and engineers standing by. ETA to your position is 30 minutes. Please advise on your most urgent needs. Velkin forced himself to step forward, to push past the fear. His people needed him to be strong. Captain Chen, he managed, his translator rendering his melodic speech into the harsh sounds of the human language. This is Commander Velkin. We have 12 souls aboard. Life support failing, temperature critical, several crew members suffering from exposure. The human nodded, a gesture that seemed understanding despite the alien features. Understood, Commander. We're preparing to extend our docking tube to your starboard airlock. Our medical team is ready to board with heating units and supplies. Will you accept our assistance? Such a formal question. As if they had a choice. As if they could say no and choose death over rescue by predators. Yes, Velkin said, the word coming out stronger than he felt. We accept your assistance, Captain Chen. And thank you. Something in the human's expression softened. You're welcome, Commander. Hold on just a little longer. We're coming. The transmission ended, and Velkin turned to face his crew. They looked at him with a mixture of hope and terror. Humans, Thymel whispered. The Deathworlders are coming aboard our ship. They're coming to save us, Velkin corrected firmly. Whatever else they are, right now they're our rescue. We will treat them with the gratitude and respect that deserves. But as the massive human warship grew larger on their screens, bristling with weapons that could vaporize their small vessel in seconds, Velkin wondered if gratitude would be enough to overcome millions of years of evolutionary fear. The next 30 minutes would be the longest of their lives. The Thunder Child loomed over the tiny Zalathi research vessel like a steel mountain beside a pebble. On the human ship's bridge, Captain Chen watched the docking procedure with careful attention. The Zalathi vessel was elegant in its own way, all smooth curves and flowing lines, built for beauty and efficiency, rather than the harsh functionality of human design. Docking tube secured, reported the operations officer. Pressure matched to Zalathi standards. Temperature adjusted to their emergency levels. We'll bring it up gradually to avoid shock. Chen activated the intercom. Lieutenant Kowalski, you're cleared aboard. Remember, Gentle movements, calm voices. These people are scientists, not soldiers. Understood, Captain. Moving out now. In the docking tube, Kowalski's team of 6 moved with deliberate slowness. Each wore full environmental suits, not for their own protection, but to prevent any biological contamination. The suits also served another purpose. They hid most of the humans' features that other species found so disturbing. Remember, Kowalski said over the team comm, they're going to be scared. Some species freeze when terrified, others might run. Be ready for anything, but don't chase or grab unless someone's life is in immediate danger. The Zalathi airlock was a work of art compared to human models, all flowing lines and soft blue lights. Private Henderson worked the controls with surprising delicacy for such large hands, overriding the failed systems with portable power units. "Got it!" he announced as the inner door spiraled open. The first thing that hit them was the cold. Even through their suits, the humans could feel it. The Zalathi ship's interior was barely above freezing, and frost had formed on many surfaces. Emergency lighting cast long shadows down a corridor designed for beings taller and thinner than humans. "Hello?" Kowalski called out, her voice automatically translated by the speakers on her suit. "This is the rescue team from the Thunder Child. We're here to help." Movement at the far end of the corridor. A Zalathi peered around the corner. Pale blue skin, 6 eyes wide with fear, body trembling from both cold and terror. The being was easily 7 feet tall, but looked fragile as spun glass. Kowalski slowly raised one hand in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. "It's okay. We're friends. We have heat and medical supplies." The Zalathi, Jelix, though the humans didn't know his name yet, stared at them for a long moment. Then he spoke, his melodic voice shaky. You came." "Of course we came," Kowalski replied gently. "Now can you lead us to your crew? We need to get everyone warmed up." Jelix emerged fully from cover, moving with the careful grace of his species despite the cold. "This way. The others they are frightened." "That's understandable," Kowalski said, motioning for her team to follow. 2 of them pulled grav sleds loaded with supplies, heating units, medical equipment, emergency rations compatible with Zalathi biology. They found the crew huddled in the central corridor, wrapped in reflective emergency blankets that did little against the pervasive cold. 11 pairs of eyes turned toward the humans, and Kowalski could see the tension ripple through the group. One of the younger Zalathi actually whimpered and pressed closer to their companions. Commander Velkin forced himself to stand, though Kowalski could see how the movement pained him. The Zalathi commander was fighting every instinct to appear strong and grateful rather than terrified. "Commander Velkin," he said formally, "thank you for responding to our distress call." Kowalski inclined her head respectfully. "Lieutenant Kowalski, sir, let's get your people warm first, then we can worry about formalities." She gestured to her team. "Martinez, Henderson, get those heating units online. Patel, start distributing thermal blankets, the real ones. Chen and Thompson, help me with medical assessments." The humans moved with practiced efficiency, but always slowly, always carefully. Martinez set up the first heating unit, and warmth began to flow into the corridor. Several Zalathi made sounds of relief as the temperature started to rise. "May I?" Kowalski asked Velkin, holding up a medical scanner. The commander's skin rippled, what passed for a nod among his people. Kowalski ran the scanner over him, frowning at the readings. "Moderate hypothermia, dehydration, elevated stress hormones, that's to be expected." She reached into her kit and produced a hydration pack. "This is formulated for your species. Small sips at first." Velkin accepted the pack with trembling fingers. The first sip of warm, properly balanced fluid seemed to restore some of his strength. Around him, other humans were tending to his crew with the same careful efficiency. Your young one there? Patel said quietly, indicating Khyven. He needs immediate attention. Core temperatures dropped too far. Without waiting for permission, Patel moved to the young Zalathi's side. Khyven flinched back, but Patel just smiled behind her faceplate and held out a thermal wrap. It's okay. This will help. Watching the massive human, for Patel was over 6 feet tall and broadly built, handle Khyven with such gentleness seemed to break some of the tension. Dr. Ralix, her professional instincts overcoming her fear, moved closer. I'm the ship's physician, she said. He's been showing signs of severe exposure for the last 2 hours. Then let's work together, Patel suggested, making room for the Zalathi doctor. You know your people's physiology better than I do. Guide me. It was a clever move, Kowalski noted. By deferring to Zalathi expertise, Patel reduced the sense of helplessness and fear. Soon the two doctors were working side by side, the size difference between them almost comical, but their cooperation seamless. Commander, Kowalski said, turning back to Velkin, Captain Chen has offered to bring your vessel aboard our ship. We have full repair facilities, and it would be safer than trying to fix your systems out here. Velkin's eyes widened, all 6 of them. Bring us aboard? The entire ship? Yes, sir. The Thunder Child has a docking bay large enough. Your ship would be secure while our engineers help yours with repairs. She paused. Or if you prefer, we can stay docked like this and work on your systems in place. Your choice. The concept of choice seemed to steady Velkin. They weren't being ordered or forced. They were being asked. I need to consult with my crew, he said. Of course, take your time. We're not going anywhere. Kowalski moved away to give them privacy, directing her team to continue distributing supplies. The Zalathi huddled together, speaking in low musical tones. Kowalski couldn't understand the words. They'd switched to their native language rather than Concordate Standard. But she could read the body language. Fear, uncertainty, but also a growing realization that the humans weren't the monsters they'd expected. Henderson had found the youngest crew members and was showing them how the heating units worked, his massive hands moving with surprising delicacy as he adjusted controls. One of the Zalathi scientists, bolder than the rest, asked a question about the power source. Soon Henderson was deep in a technical discussion, his enthusiasm for engineering crossing the species barrier. They're so careful, Dr. Ralix murmured to Velkin, watching Patel work on Khyven. The human could easily lift our entire crew with those muscles, but look how gentle she is. Deathworlders, Thymel whispered. How can beings from such a hostile world be so kind? Velkin finished. He watched the humans moving among his crew, distributing supplies, offering comfort. One had even found their food stores and was preparing a hot meal with the help of their cook. Chen's voice came over Kowalski's comm. Lieutenant, how's it going over there? Steady progress, Captain. The crew is warming up. No serious medical issues beyond exposure. They're discussing whether to come aboard. No pressure. Make sure they know that. We'll help either way. Aye, Captain. Velkin made his decision. He approached Kowalski, his movements already steadier thanks to the warmth and hydration. Lieutenant, we would be grateful to accept Captain Chen's offer. Our ship... He gestured around at the dark corridors, the frost-covered walls. She's dying. Without your help, so are we. Kowalski smiled, though she knew the expression was hidden by her helmet. We'll take good care of both, Commander. Henderson, signal the Thunder Child. We're bringing them home. The next hours passed in a blur of activity. The human engineers worked with their Zalathi counterparts to prepare the research vessel for movement. It was delicate work. The ship's structural integrity had been compromised by the temperature extremes, and moving it required careful planning. Chief Engineer Mollix found herself working alongside Lieutenant Commander Torres, who had come aboard to oversee the operation. The human was half her height, but seemed to understand her ship's systems with an intuitive grasp that impressed her. Your power distribution network is elegant, Torres commented, tracing the flow patterns on a schematic. We use brute force redundancy. You use... It's almost like art. My grandmother designed this class of vessel, Moloch said, pride overcoming fear. She always said a ship should be beautiful in function as well as form. She was right. Okay, if we reroute power through this junction and bypass the damaged sections, we should be able to get enough thrust for the transfer. He looked up at her. Want to do the honors? It's your ship. Again, that deference, that respect. Moloch found herself relaxing as she worked the controls with Torres guiding her through the human systems they'd connected. Meanwhile, the Zalathi crew was being transferred to the Thunder Child in small groups. The humans had set up a reception area in one of their cargo bays, temperature and gravity adjusted to Zalathi norms. Medical staff waited with more supplies, hot food, and comfortable resting areas. Velkin was in the last group to transfer. As he stepped aboard the human vessel, he couldn't help but stare. Everything was built to a scale that seemed impossible. Corridors wide enough for 3 Zalathi to walk abreast, ceilings that towered overhead. The walls were thick metal, painted in neutral grays with exposed conduits and support beams that spoke of function over form. "Welcome aboard, Commander," Captain Chen greeted him personally. She'd come down from the bridge, and Velkin got his first in-person look at a human without an environmental suit. They were smaller than he'd expected from the video transmission. Chen barely came up to his chest, but there was a density to her, a sense of coiled strength that his instincts recognized as predatory. Yet her expression was warm, her body language open and non-threatening. "Captain Chen," Velkin managed, we owe you our lives." "You owe us nothing," Chen replied firmly. "Anyone would have done the same." But that wasn't true, and they both knew it. The Concordate races would have come eventually. But following proper procedures and protocols, they would have taken days to mobilize a response. The humans had dropped everything and raced to help strangers who feared them, whose government wanted nothing to do with them. "Your ship will be aboard in 20 minutes, Chen continued. "My engineers will work with yours on repairs. In the meantime, please, rest, eat. You're safe here." Safe, on a human warship. The irony wasn't lost on Velkin, but as he watched his crew being tended to with such care, he began to believe it might be true. In the Thunder Child's medical bay, Dr. Asano worked with Dr. Ralix to treat the more severe cases of exposure. Young Kaivan was responding well to treatment, his color returning to a healthy blue. "Your heating protocols are impressive," Ralix commented, studying the human equipment. "Much more sophisticated than ours." Asano chuckled. "We've had to get creative. Humans explore places we probably shouldn't. Frozen moons, deep ocean trenches, the vacuum of space itself. Learning to treat exposure became a necessity." "But why?" Ralix asked, genuine curiosity overcoming caution. "Why go to such dangerous places?" "Because they're there," Asano replied simply. "Because we want to know what's over the next hill, what's under the ice, what's beyond that star. It's just who we are." Ralix considered this. "The Concordate species. We explore too, but carefully, safely. You explore as if the danger is part of the appeal." "Maybe it is," Asano admitted. "But that same drive that sends us to dangerous places also sends us racing to help when someone's in trouble. We can't help it. We hear someone needs help, we go. It's as simple as that." "Even when those someones are afraid of you?" Asano's expression softened. "Especially then. Fear can be overcome. Death can't." In the cargo bay, the Zalathi crew had gathered around the viewports to watch their ship being brought aboard. The Whisper of Stars looked even smaller inside the human vessel's cavernous hold, like a graceful bird taking shelter in a cave. "She looks so fragile," Thaimal murmured. "She is fragile," Moloch replied, "but she'll fly again. The humans have already identified what we need for repairs. They're fabricating replacement parts in their workshops. How long? Velkin asked. 3 days, they said. Maybe 4. Mollix's skin rippled with amazement. They have manufacturing capabilities on board, Commander. They can make almost anything. Of course they did, Velkin thought. A ship designed to operate far from home, in hostile territory, would need to be self-sufficient. The Deathworlders prepared for everything because their entire existence was about surviving where others couldn't. Lieutenant Kowalski approached the group. She'd removed her helmet now that they were in the controlled environment, revealing short red hair and green eyes that, yes, faced forward like a predator's. But her smile was genuine and warm. Commander, Captain Chen has arranged quarters for your crew. Nothing fancy, but comfortable. We've adjusted the environmental controls to match your preferences. She paused. We've also set up a communication station so you can contact your people. Let them know you're safe. Velkin felt his tendrils droop. Suppose we must. The Concordat will need to know that we've been rescued. He could imagine the reaction. Panic at human contact. Demands that the Zalathi crew undergo quarantine and psychological evaluation. Questions about what technology they might have been exposed to. What aggressive ideas might have been planted in their minds. Kowalski seemed to understand his hesitation. The captain says there's no rush. Get some rest first. The message can wait until you're ready. Such simple kindness. No demands, no conditions. Just help, freely given. As the Zalathi were escorted to their temporary quarters, Velkin found himself walking beside Kowalski. Lieutenant, may I ask you something? Of course. Your captain dropped everything to come save us. Pushed your engines, risked entering Concordat space where humans aren't welcome. Why? Kowalski considered the question. You know what Earth is like? Our homeworld? We've heard. Extreme weather, tectonic instability, aggressive fauna? That's all true. But you know what else Earth taught us? That sometimes survival means helping each other. A blizzard hits, neighbors share warmth, earthquake strikes, strangers pull each other from rubble, floods come, people form chains to pass sandbags. She shrugged. When you evolve in a place that's constantly trying to kill you, you learn that sometimes the only thing standing between someone and death is the person willing to help. So we help. It's that simple. Even across species, across the void of space. A neighbor is a neighbor, Commander. Whether they're next door or in the next star system. Velkin pondered this as they reached the quarters assigned to the Zalathi. They were indeed simple by his people's standards, functional rather than aesthetic, but they were warm, safe, and equipped with everything his crew needed. Lieutenant, he said as Kowalski turned to go. Thank you, and please thank your captain. We misjudged your people. No thanks needed, Commander. Get some rest. Tomorrow we'll start putting your ship back together. As she left, Velkin entered the quarters to find his crew already settling in. Some were eating the first hot meal they'd had in days. Others were simply sitting, marveling at the warmth and safety. Commander, Jellic said quietly, what do we tell the Concordat? Velkin thought for a long moment. The truth. That when we called for help, the humans answered. That the Deathworlders we've been taught to fear saved our lives with kindness and competence. Let the politicians make of that what they will. They won't believe us, Thymel said. They'll think we've been compromised somehow. Perhaps. But we 12 know the truth. And maybe that's how understanding starts. One ship, one crew, one rescue at a time. Through the viewport, they could see the whisper of stars being secured in the hold. Human technicians swarmed over her hull, already beginning repairs. It was a strange sight, the delicate Zalathi vessel being tended by the hardy Deathworlders. But maybe, Velkin thought, that's exactly how it should be. the strong helping the vulnerable, the ones who could survive anything making sure others survived too. For the first time since their reactor failed, he felt hope, not just for their survival but for something greater. Perhaps this accident, this misfire of their distress signal, had started something neither species had expected. Perhaps fear could indeed be overcome. 3 days passed aboard the Thunderchild, and with each passing hour, the barriers between human and Zalathi crew members crumbled a little more. What had begun as a desperate rescue had transformed into something neither species had expected: genuine cultural exchange. In the ship's engineering bay, Chief Mollix worked alongside the human repair crews on the Whisper of Stars. The damaged reactor had been carefully removed, and a temporary human power unit installed while they fabricated replacement components. She found herself constantly amazed by human engineering philosophy. "You build everything so redundant," she observed to Chief Patel, the Thunderchild's lead engineer. Patel laughed, a sound that no longer made Mollix flinch. "Triple redundancy minimum. If something can fail, it will fail, probably at the worst possible moment, so we plan for it. But the inefficiency keeps us alive," Patel finished. "Look, your reactor design is brilliant. Energy output to mass ratio that made my jaw drop. But one cascade failure and your whole ship dies. Our reactors?" She gestured to the massive power plants visible through the bay windows. "Any 2 of them could fail, and we'd still make it home. Ugly, wasteful, but reliable." Mollix studied the human technology with new appreciation. "You engineer for survival first, elegance second. Because we come from a world that wants us dead," Patel said matter-of-factly. "Your world, from what I've read, is paradise. Calm seas, stable climate, no predators. You could afford to build beautiful, efficient things. We had to build things that could take a beating and keep working." "Is it true?" Mollix asked hesitantly. "About your weather? The stories say you have winds that can destroy cities. Hurricanes, tornadoes, blizzards, sandstorms," Patel listed casually. "Oh, and the ground sometimes just opens up and swallows things, or explodes in fire. It's actually quite pretty if you're far enough away." Mollix's skin patterned in disbelief. "And you chose to evolve intelligence there?" "Well, we didn't exactly get a vote," Patel grinned. "But yeah, Earth's home. All that chaos made us what we are. Made us builders, fighters, explorers. Made us too stubborn to die and too curious to stay safe." In the medical bay, a different kind of exchange was taking place. Dr. Ralix had become fascinated by human medical technology and techniques, spending hours with Dr. Asano comparing notes. Young Kaivan, fully recovered from his hypothermia, had overcome his fear enough to pepper the human doctor with questions. "So humans can eat both plants and meat?" he asked, his 6 eyes wide with curiosity. "That's right," Asano confirmed. "Omnivores. It gave our ancestors a huge survival advantage. When plants were scarce, we could hunt. When game was scarce, we could forage. But that means you have to kill to eat sometimes," Kevin said, his voice dropping. "Yes," Asano said simply. "But we've moved beyond that necessity for the most part. Modern food synthesis means no animal has to die for us to eat. Though some humans still prefer traditional foods for cultural reasons." "Do you?" Ralix asked carefully. "I eat mostly synthesized, but my grandmother still makes traditional Japanese dishes when I visit. It's about connection to our past, honoring where we came from while moving toward where we're going. Like maintaining our ship designs even though we could build more efficiently," Ralix mused. "Heritage matters." "Exactly. We're not the savage predators some make us out to be. We're just complicated. Like every sapient species, I imagine." Kevin had been quiet, processing. Then he asked, "Were you ever scared?" when you were young, on your dangerous world? Asano smiled gently. All the time. Fear keeps you alive on Earth. But my parents taught me that being scared doesn't mean you can't also be brave. The two often go together. Our parents teach us to avoid danger, Kevin said. Ours teach us to face it smart, Asano replied. Different worlds, different lessons. Neither is wrong. On the bridge, Captain Chen was dealing with the political situation. As expected, the Concordate's response to learning humans had rescued the Zalathi crew had been complicated. They're demanding we release the crew immediately, Commander Torres reported, reading the latest message. They're also insisting on a full quarantine period and psychological evaluation for anyone who had prolonged exposure to human influence. Chen snorted. Human influence, like we're some kind of contagion. To be fair, Captain, from their perspective we might be. Every concordate species evolved on relatively peaceful worlds. We're the only sapient species they've encountered that evolved as persistence hunters on a death world. Still ridiculous, Chen muttered. She activated the comm system. Commander Velkin to the bridge, please. When Velkin arrived, he could see the tension in the human captain's posture. You've heard from the Concordate? I have. They want us to transfer you to one of their vessels immediately. They're sending the Harmony of Purposes to the border. We're to approach no closer than 1 light hour and transfer you via shuttle. Velkin's tendrils drooped. They don't trust you even to deliver us safely. Apparently not. Chen turned to face him fully. Commander, I need to know. Are you and your crew comfortable with this? If you'd prefer, we can deliver you directly to a Zalathi colony instead. The Concordate can file complaints later. The offer surprised Velkin. You would defy the Concordate for us? I'd defy anyone who treated rescue as something political rather than moral, Chen said flatly. You're not prisoners here. You're guests. Where you go next is your choice. Velkin was quiet for a long moment, thinking of the past 3 days, how his crew had slowly relaxed around the humans, how Thymol had spent hours in the ship's laboratory, excitedly discussing research with human scientists, how Jelix had made friends with several human comm officers, learning about their technology, how even young Kevin now looked forward to his daily medical checks with Dr. Asano. Captain, he said slowly, what would happen if we requested to stay until our ship is fully repaired, to complete the journey with you? Chen smiled slightly. Then we'd continue repairs and deliver you wherever you wanted to go. The Concordate would be furious, but that's my problem, not yours. It could cause a diplomatic incident. Commander, they've been looking for an excuse to have a diplomatic incident with us since first contact. At least this one would be over something worthwhile. Velkin made his decision. Then I need to speak with my crew. The meeting in the Zalathi quarters was charged with emotion. All 12 crew members gathered, their skin patterns shifting with various feelings as Velkin explained the situation. They want to quarantine us? Thymol asked, indignation coloring her words. As if we've been infected? The humans have shown us nothing but kindness, Jelix added. They saved our lives. But the Concordate, Ensign Lyra began. The Concordate didn't answer our call, Dr. Rallix interrupted, surprising everyone with her vehemence. The humans did. They risked themselves to save strangers who feared them. What are you suggesting? Velkin asked, though he suspected he knew. I'm suggesting we tell the truth, Rallix said firmly, that we choose to complete our journey with our rescuers, that we've seen no aggression, no contamination, nothing but compassion and competence. It could affect our careers, Thymol pointed out. The Science Ministry might... Then maybe the Science Ministry needs to reconsider its prejudices, young Kaivan said, surprising everyone. The youngest crew member stood tall, his recovery complete. We're scientists. We're supposed to base conclusions on evidence, not fear. and the evidence shows humans aren't what we were taught. One by one, the crew voiced their agreement. When the vote was taken, it was unanimous. They would stay with the Thunderchild until their ship was repaired and they could return home on their own power. Velkin returned to the bridge with their decision. Chen received it with a professional nod, but he could see the pleased glint in those predator eyes. "Very well, Commander. Please compose a message to the Concordat explaining your decision. We'll transmit it immediately." She paused. "And, Commander, thank you for trusting us." The response from the Concordat was predictable. Threats, warnings, demands. The harmony of purposes changed course to intercept, though it would take days to reach them. Political messages flew back and forth, growing increasingly heated. But in the engineering bay, work continued. The new reactor components were installed, tested, calibrated. Human and Zalathi engineers worked side by side, sharing knowledge and techniques. Mollix found herself redesigning several systems with human-inspired redundancies, while the humans marveled at Zalathi innovations in energy efficiency. "You know what's funny?" Chief Patel said as they ran final diagnostics. "Your people have things to teach us, too. This harmonic frequency stabilization technique, that's genius. We've been brute-forcing similar effects with 3 times the equipment." "Perhaps," Mollix said carefully. "Our peoples could benefit from more exchanges." Scientific cooperation. "Now that's a thought worth pursuing," Patel agreed. "Deathworld engineering married to Paradise World elegance? We could build amazing things." On the 4th day, the Whisper of Stars was ready for testing. The Zalathi crew, accompanied by human engineers, boarded their vessel for the first powered flight since the accident. Velkin sat in his command chair, Mollix at the engineering station, the rest of his crew at their posts. "Reactor initialization sequence beginning," Mollix reported, "all systems showing green." The ship hummed to life around them, restored to full function. But it was more than restored. It was improved. Human redundancies had been carefully integrated without compromising the vessel's elegant design. The reactor now had multiple fail-safes. The life support system had backups. Even the communication array had been enhanced. "She's better than new," Velkin murmured. "Ready for anything the universe throws at you," Chief Patel said from where she observed. "Want to take her for a spin?" Velkin looked at his crew. He saw excitement rather than fear, anticipation rather than dread. "Helm, take us out! 1/4 thrust!" The Whisper of Stars glided out of the Thunderchild's docking bay, moving under her own power for the first time in days. The crew cheered, a musical sound that made their human observers smile. "How does she feel?" Captain Chen asked over comms. "Like coming home," Velkin replied. "All systems optimal. We're space-worthy, Captain." "Excellent. Then I suppose the question is, where would you like to go?" It was the moment of decision. They could run for Concordat space, try to reach the approaching vessel. They could head for the nearest Zalathi colony. Or, "Captain Chen," Velkin said formally, "we have a mission to complete. We came to this sector to study gravitational anomalies. With your permission, we'd like to finish that study before returning home." There was a pause. Then Chen's voice came back warm with approval. "Permission granted, Commander. We'll escort you to the anomaly site. Make sure you're safe to continue." "That's not necessary." "It is to us," Chen interrupted gently. "We finish what we start. It's a human thing." As the 2 ships moved deeper into the sector, Velkin had his communications officer open a channel to the Concordat. It was time to send a different kind of message. "Concordat Central, this is Commander Velkin of the Whisper of Stars. I am transmitting this message of my own free will, with my crew's full support. 4 days ago, our reactor failed catastrophically. We were dying, beyond the reach of standard rescue. The humans of the vessel, Thunderchild, heard our distress call and responded without hesitation. They saved our lives with professionalism and kindness. They repaired our ship with their resources and expertise. They treated us with nothing but respect and dignity. At no time did we experience aggression, coercion, or the contamination some seem to fear. We are scientists. Our purpose is to seek truth through evidence. The evidence shows that humanity's classification as dangerous Deathworlders, while technically accurate regarding their origin, fails to encompass their actual nature. They are survivors, yes. But they survive not through brutality, but through cooperation, innovation, and an irrepressible drive to help others, even others who fear them. My crew and I will be completing our original mission with our human escorts, ensuring our safety. We will then return to Zalathi space with a full report. But know this: we owe our lives to the kindness of Deathworlders. Perhaps it is time to reconsider our prejudices. Commander Velkin out. The message sent, Velkin turned to his crew. Well, I've likely ended all our careers. Worth it, Thymel said immediately. Someone had to say it. Through the viewports, they could see the Thunder Child keeping pace, a protective presence in the void. On the human ship, Captain Chen listened to the message with a small smile. Think it'll make a difference? Torres asked. One message? Probably not, but it's a start. Change happens one person at a time, one act of kindness at a time. She settled back in her chair. Helm, maintain escort position. Let's make sure our new friends complete their mission safely. 2 weeks later, the gravitational anomaly study complete, the two ships approached the border of concordate space. The Harmony of Purposes waited on the other side, along with 2 other concordate vessels. The political situation had escalated significantly. They're ordering us to cross immediately and submit to quarantine, Gelix reported. And ordering us to withdraw or face consequences, Lieutenant Davis added from the Thunder Child. The two captains conferred over a secure channel. We can escort you across, Chen offered. Make sure they treat you fairly. That would only escalate things, Velkin replied. But Captain, thank you. For everything. The thanks go both ways, Commander. Your crew showed courage in trusting us. That took strength. We'll send our full report to the Science Ministry, Velkin promised. With all our sensor data, personal logs, everything. They'll see the truth. Some will. Others won't want to. But you've planted a seed. That matters. As the Whisper of Stars prepared to cross into concordate space, the entire human crew of the Thunder Child assembled on the observation decks to see them off. It was a gesture of respect that touched the Zalathi deeply. Captain Chen, Velkin said over open channels, knowing the concordate vessels would hear. Should any human vessel ever need assistance in space we can reach, know that the crew of the Whisper of Stars will answer. This I swear by the stars themselves. It was the most sacred oath a Zalathi could make. On the concordate vessels, officers looked at each other in shock. On the Thunder Child, Chen stood a little straighter. Safe travels, Whisper of Stars. May the void be kind to you. The graceful research vessel crossed into concordate space, immediately surrounded by the waiting ships. But her crew went willingly, unafraid. They had a story to tell, a truth to share. And they had learned something precious, that courage could be contagious, passed from one species to another through acts of simple kindness. 6 months later, the Concordate's stance on humanity hadn't officially changed, but small things had shifted. The quarantine period for the Whisper of Stars crew had been cut short when medical exams showed nothing but improved health. Their report, meticulously detailed and supported by extensive data, circulated through scientific communities despite official attempts to suppress it. Other incidents began to occur. A human cargo vessel answered a distress call from a concordate transport. A human medical team provided assistance during a disease outbreak on a border colony. Each time, the humans came, helped, and left without asking for anything in return. Commander Velkin, his career surprisingly intact thanks to support from the scientific community, continued his research. But now his work included a new project, a comparative study of survival strategies across species. It was groundbreaking work that required cooperation with human scientists. The first joint research station was small, barely more than a few connected modules in neutral space. But it was a beginning. Human and concordate scientists working together, sharing knowledge, building understanding. Dr. Asano was part of the human contingent, and she smiled when she saw a familiar tall figure among the Zalathi delegation. "Kevin, look how you've grown!" The young Zalathi, now a full ensign and research assistant, practically bounced with excitement. "Dr. Asano, I've been studying human medical techniques. I even wrote a paper on cross-species emergency treatment protocols." "He won't shut up about it," Thymel said fondly, following behind. "You humans are a bad influence. He's become positively reckless in his research proposals." "Calculated risks," Khyven corrected. "Just like you taught me, Dr. Asano. Fear and bravery together." As the two groups mingled, sharing stories and catching up, Captain Chen watched from her ship. The Thunder Child had been assigned to protect the research station, officially from pirates, unofficially from anyone in the Concordat who might object to the collaboration. "Think it'll work?" Torres asked, joining her at the viewport. "It already is working," Chen replied. "Look at them. 6 months ago, those Zalathi were terrified of us. Now they're arguing about research methodologies and sharing meal recipes. All because their distress signal misfired. Best malfunction in history," Chen agreed. "Though I wonder—" "What?" Chen smiled. "That subspace distortion that redirected their signal to us. What are the odds of such a precise accident? Almost like the universe wanted to teach both our species a lesson." "You think someone arranged it?" "I think sometimes help comes from unexpected places, and sometimes fear needs a push to become friendship." She turned from the viewport. "Either way, we answered the call. That's what matters." Outside, the research station gleamed against the stars, a small beacon of cooperation in the vast darkness. It wasn't much yet, just a few modules and 24 scientists, but it was proof that Deathworlders and Paradise Worlders could work together, learn from each other, even care for each other. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but it was also full of potential friends, if people could just get past their fears long enough to extend a helping hand. The humans had learned that on their dangerous world. Now slowly, others were learning it too. One rescue at a time, one friendship at a time, one star at a time. The mission continued.